and good time zone to you. I'm Lady Lily, or just Lily, sitting here with my husband and co-host Eric.
Hello, hello.
This is our first episode. Obviously, I guess we should tell you the name of the show that we're starting here, and it is a veiled tete-a-tete. It's a strange name, as you may already realize, uh, but I found it quite appropriate. And it's something odd that isn't used anymore. So I was like, that's really freaking cool. So Eric, uh, how did how did you explain a tete-a-tete to me?
Well, just first to define it per Merriam-Webster, tete-a-tete is a private conversation between two persons. Um, it often has a context of like a more, as it said, private, but private, intimate conversation, which in a way isn't exactly what this is broadcasting out. But yeah, that's sort of the context of this podcast is just taking our conversations and letting people sort of get an eye in.
Yeah. So like, it's gonna be various random topics. Um, we'll delve into things that are lighthearted. But we'll also talk about very deep things. Traumas will be brought up. Um, and devastating things in the world. Um, so it's gonna be real, guys. It's gonna be real. Um,
Real.
yeah, real. Oh dear God, real. Help us.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, no. I guess we should kind of introduce ourselves. I'm gonna be the one that explains like half my life and is just gonna ramble. So here I go. I'm Lily, a chaotic fae, I like to say, that craves order. Really weird. There's order to my chaos. I guess an oxymoron. I think that's the right word where it means different things.
Sort of, yes.
Okay. Anyway, as I tend to introduce myself, I'm Demi, under the bi umbrella, polyamorous, and spirit. I don't know. That one is a bit muddy for me. And I have a cocktail of mental illnesses, which we might get to talking about later in the show. Who knows, depending on where our conversations go to. Um, I love collecting things that are odd, shiny, squishy. Just I and I'm an artist, and so I make paintings and digital drawings. I love creating. I've recently got into these little micro blocks that are building like little fantasy houses and stuff. And I've got one that's like the Titanic and stuff. Anyways, um, it's rambling. I told you I'm gonna ramble. That is me. I am a socialist, I guess, kind of, or that's the closest thing to how I believe. I just I just want everyone to care about each other and take care of one another. You'll find out just how I am really in this podcast. My religious ideology is actually very funny. Got compared to recently. So we are very avid Pathfinder players, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. Anyways, it's a fantasy game. Um, and there is a pantheon in that uh fantasy game that kind of correlates with uh my like thought processes and my beliefs. They're previously known as the prismatic ray, though through some changes in the game they've been renamed to the radiant prism, and they consist of three goddesses. The first one is Sarenrae, the goddess of fire, light, healing, redemption. Desna, the goddess of the night sky and stars, travel, dreams, and finally, Shaylin, the goddess of art, love, and beauty. They are a triad, so they're in a relationship together, all three of them. Um, and they call to like in me the free love I have, the importance of art and whimsical nature, traveling and seeing the world and taking in experiences that the world has to offer, just the goodness. So while they're not a real life pantheon, I also have a hard time believing in a deity, so like it doesn't really matter, kind of thing. Though so, I don't know. It's also weird because then I'm like something does exist. I just don't know what. So it's like I said, very muddy. I'll leave it at just that I am who I am. I have a very traumatic past that we'll probably get into as well. Um just because I talk about everything. I am an open book as this this long ass intro has explained already. So I guess that is enough about me. Uh Way too much about me. Eric, you wanna explain your bit?
Yeah, I'm Eric. I'm a lot more of a private person. Perhaps a man of few words. Perhaps you could say I'm concise in my speech. I'm a fan of RPGs, role playing games, both of the tabletop and video game varieties. I'm a bit of an audiophile. Um, I'm a living font of trivia. I've pretty often got some knowledge about a lot of things that are brought up. And as this goes on, it's going to become pretty obvious, but politically I'm pretty far left. Maybe radically, maybe not exactly, but especially given in context to American politics, I'm pretty far left. um would I consider myself a socialist? Maybe, maybe not. I have a trouble with labels a whole lot.
Yeah, that's fair.
And also the S word and the C word get thrown a lot around a lot as a sort of automatic like curse words. So
This is fair.
yeah.
I know that. That's kind of why I say socialist is cuz
Oh, you're being so daring and inflammatory.
yes, exactly.
You edgy little girl.
Oh, my bad. Anyways, so we've been together since 2009, and married at the end of 2010.
Mhm.
So that's like, this is 2025 or 2024. So 2025 next year will be,
Mhm.
uh, 15 years married. This year is 15
Mhm.
years together.
Yep.
Um,
Just short of 14 years married as of recording.
yes, actually. Um, Matter of fact, it's the day after our anniversary of you proposing to me.
Indeed it is, yes.
Um, so that's us, I guess. Um, you'll get to know us through this podcast because it's gonna be us just talking and bullshitting, and we'll have topics that we'll kind of write a few bits and pieces about, and then I'll go, so explain this to me. Now explain this to me. But wait, what does this mean? You know, it'll be a lot of that.
And then I get to mansplain everything.
I don't even understand what that means. I see all these memes about it and I don't get it. And then people were like, "Oh, they're mansplaining something to you." And I'm like, "Okay. Sure. Oh god. Oh, how dare them." Right?
I mean, okay. Do you want me to go into this?
Yes.
Okay. So the whole thing about mansplaining, which I was meaning it mostly as a joke, but is more or less getting down to the core of it, is whenever a woman is talking about anything and a man feels the need to, unprompted and probably unneeded, explain things. So,
So without somebody asking, so can somebody explain this to me?
yeah. So, like, you could be talking about art or something else that you are knowledgeable about and whatnot. And then I could go, well, actually, and then just,
Take over the conversation.
yes, and try to explain things about art. And you'd be like, the fuck, excuse me, right?
Ah,
I
okay.
don't do that so much. I do explain quite a few things, but it's usually not unprompted.
Yeah, because it's usually me doing exactly what I just did and said, "I don't even get this." And you're like, "Do you want me? I can." And I'm like, "Yes, please. Please,
Hmm.
yes. Please explain this to me." Just like this.
Yeah.
Um, so wow, it's only been 12 minutes.
Uh huh.
Yeah, so that was our 12-minute intro of what we thought was going to be half the show, guys.
I mean, 12 minutes is kind of lengthy for that much of an intro. But yeah, we were going to move on to talking about Pathfinder for the rest of this episode, as it is our deepest, loveliest, escapist love.
Yes. Yes, it is. I prefer that life.
Yes, if only.
Yes. So what is Pathfinder?
All right. Well, Pathfinder is a tabletop role playing game, much in the vein and literally descended from Dungeons of Dragons of, I guess, eye roll, in pop culture, Stranger Things fame. Uh, Pathfinder, the first edition of it, and the second edition in this case, are published by Paizo. They used to publish both the Dungeon magazine and the Dragon magazine for Wizards of the Coast back in the third edition era of Dungeons and Dragons. But whenever Wizards of the Coast, the company that publishes Dungeons and Dragons, for anyone who doesn't know, whenever they decided that they were done with their 3.5 edition and that they were going to move on to the fourth edition, um, the folks at Paizo decided that they wanted to go in their own direction. And thus they developed their own rule set, and they came out with Pathfinder with the
In their
first
world,
edition. Yes, and their world, which has come to be known as the
Lost Omen setting.
yes, the Lost Omens setting.
I know
And
things.
you do. I do not say otherwise. Um, and for about 5 years now, they've been developing actively. It's been released for this long, but for 5 years, they've been working on Pathfinder Second Edition as the current edition.
Yes. and it's so much better than the than the playtest.
The playtest did have a lot of things that were pretty rough. I was pretty skeptical about the playtest in a lot of ways. But
Yes.
after the release build came out and we started playing things and we played Age of Ashes, the first published adventure path, I was sold outright.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was rough at first, and then again, like, to be fair, I was given 2 hours to create a character for this game.
Yes, that's because you kept pussyfooting around what sort of character you wanted to make. So I figured that the best way was to push you off of the metaphorical cliff there.
Yeah. So I had 2 hours and we were gonna play the game, and I had that time to create a character. And I created one of my most beloved characters.
Indeed, you did.
Um, but yeah, we played Age of Ashes, and that is nowadays it is a not as well liked adventure path, but it's also their first adventure path out of second edition
Hmm.
that they were still building the rule set while making that adventure.
Yes, yes.
So there's definitely some kinks in there, and they admit that, but looking at the circumstances of that adventure being written, it's well understandable.
Yeah, and I think as far as what I've seen, it's still relatively well regarded as a good adventure path, pretty classical on its fantasy tropes.
Mhm.
Um, but
It doesn't have a mimic.
it does not have a mimic. I have noticed that I haven't run into all that many mimics in Pathfinder's stuff, though that's probably for how
Trophy.
iconic and tropey they are for Dungeons and Dragons, which even from the beginning, while they did while they were publishing under the Open Games license and were using some D&D things, they would lean into some old D&D and tabletop tropes, but they would lean away from others, and then they would just, of course, not entirely not use ones that were protected by Wizards proprietary,
Yeah.
IP protections. But yeah, I think on the whole, uh, Age of Ashes is considered to be a good adventure, just a little bit mistuned. And yeah, as you said, that's because they were still writing the rules when they wrote the adventure, so
Yeah.
they weren't quite sure how everything would work. And honestly, compared to how the beginner box was, it's even more set up for release, because the beginner box, how it's written, is written in a way that much more reflects the playtest rules. And until the remaster, which I'm sure we'll get to, it technically, if you ran it as written, it didn't really reflect the release rules entirely. Like they had the healing potions in it. They were named slightly different from what they were
Mhm.
in release. So that would be a little bit confusing, and things are just a little bit different.
Yeah. But anyways, that's off the trail of what Pathfinder is, though kind of
It's still
still
sort of there.
explains it.
Yeah. But in any case, yeah. So it's a tabletop role playing game, a high
High
fantasy and whatnot.
fantasy. And yeah, you build characters and you know, roll dice and kill things and do dramatic things, and
Hmm.
it's really cool and really fun.
Yeah. And sort of on that scale, if you were to compare it to its most famous relative, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Um, it's kind of more, it's called more rules heavy. Um, whereas officially with D&D
D&D.
5th edition, you're sort of the dungeon master specifically is more empowered to say, you don't know what it is, make it up. Just make up whatever.
Yeah.
And there's some quite a few things that are left intentionally vague or just empty rules wise
Yeah.
to sort of
Leave it on.
urge, yeah, urge improv. Whereas Pathfinder has a
Usually
lot of
has
the,
a rule for that.
yeah, it has a lot more mechanical foundations, and some things can seem convoluted, though I don't really think much of anything is overly convoluted.
No, not really.
Excuse me. But like there's the traits system, for instance. Um in Pathfinder, basically everything has traits, which are just little one word tags um that are descriptors, and
Mm-hmm.
everything basically has them, from items like weapons and armor to spells, even things about your character, your ancestry, what sort of being they are, be it human or elf or orc. Those have traits.
Your um heritage.
Hmm. Your class, just everything has traits, which work sort of as like a keyword system to clue you into how things work and sort of how some things trigger on. And the way that it can seem somewhat complicated is, one, there's a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
And two, sometimes traits have traits,
Yes.
which you can go, what? Yes. So, um, I'm trying to remember a nested version of it, but like
It's
sometimes,
something that has the manipulate trait on
yeah,
it.
that's exactly what it's going to bring up.
Is it stand up?
Nah, I don't believe
No.
so. No, stand up is a move. Has the
A move, which a move action has the manipulate trait, doesn't it?
no,
No? Okay.
nope. Um, I don't recall. I
Because
know
whatever
about
it is,
casting
is
spells.
yeah. And certain spells have the manipulate trait on it.
Hmm.
Um,
Actually, almost
most
all
most all
have the
spells.
manipulate trait.
Yes. Whatever I was trying to think of was because of reactive strike and
Hmm.
doing something, whether it be like grappling or tripping or something that has the manipulate trait, so it triggers reactive strikes.
Yeah.
Sorry, that just went into a lot of mumbo jumbo that you probably don't understand unless you know Pathfinder.
But yeah, so it that seems very complicated, and in truth, it's not. It's just a lot of little words to understand what they mean.
It's
And
it's like things to trigger in your mind palace.
I suppose so, yes.
I don't know. That's how it works for me. Is it actually really works with my autism and stuff because that's I have little trigger words that bring me to the rest of the memory.
Hmm.
Like how to remember something, I pick a word or something to associate with it.
Ah, yes.
So this trait system is absolutely perfect for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And once you really get a feeling for it, it does work. Everything more or less has an answer.
But that gets overwhelming for people because that's a lot of information.
It can, yeah. And for some people, it does seem a little bit overly constrictive. But honestly, I really like the robustness of the rule sets. And I just like how Paizo writes, to be honest.
Yes, yes, gosh, I love their stories.
Yeah.
I want to play all the adventure paths because I want all the stories.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's a reason why I want to be immortal so I can play all the adventure paths
Right. And another thing, though, is that
and other games.
while you do cool shit in D&D, one, 5th edition has a very like narrow band of like the most stable play of about 5 to I think 15, which doesn't seem like that narrow, but really it's the most stable around like 5 to 10. You start getting above that and things start getting a bit wonky and rocket tag and whatnot. And also it's not really based around getting that many things. Getting semi basic magic weapons is pretty big in 5th edition.
Wait, really?
Yeah, yeah.
You don't get magic weapons
Well, it's that
often?
not that you no, you don't get them often. You will get them, but like
I don't want to play D&D 5e.
we have sort of played it and realized that the flavor wasn't to our taste.
Yeah, I just thought it was the GMs. No offense to these GMs, but
Yeah, and that is another thing about tabletop RPGs is that
their
even given
tables
the
just
same
weren't for me.
yeah, even given the same rules, each table is going to be different depending on the people that are there, be it the game master or the other players.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you won't be usually in most adventures, most campaigns, you won't be so decked out as you end up being in like mid-high level Pathfinder.
Oh, jeez. Like I said, nah, y'all can keep that.
It does make for just in their favor, it does make the magic items feel a lot more special.
Yeah, but I like being a badass.
You can still be a badass in 5th edition. Just it's a bit different, and there are what I feel to be like cooler, more flavorful things because even the character creation is left, and all the things about the character, be it classes and their abilities and items, are all left a bit more vague. That's another thing that's still vague in 5th edition, so that they can be moved and shaped, and one item can be reflavored in a bunch of different ways. Whereas Pathfinder, especially as they go further and further in, their things are, as they are, very flavorful.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you look at actually this is a good segue to what we're going to talk about in the newest supplement, War of Immortals. If you just look at the things from the new book and just some of the things
I
in
don't have
the
the book up.
I do.
Okay.
I'm getting there.
I should have had the book up.
But like give me just a second.
Oh god, what is it? What are you looking for?
I'm just looking. So what I feel like is sort of up to now the peak in like fucking if you want to be this badass heroic flavor, the exemplar class, which people have their thoughts about. It's certainly not for every table. as you have like a bit of a divine spark about you, and you're like fictional characters that would sort of show this off would be like Achilles or Maui or things like that, where you've got this divine spark of divine energy inside of you, and icons, which are either um, specific items that you either hold, like weapons or whatnot, or something you're wearing, like a cloak or some armor, or even parts of your body, such as your eyes or your smile or things like that.
Yeah.
And another thing that's really flavorful about them is that you supposed to be you being this legendary person that's built into this class. You have an epithet, uh, sort of title that describes you, and they start off pretty um, basic um, near the beginning, as in like the brave or the cunning or the deft, and these all have like uh, mechanical benefits to them. But later on, as you get uh, more and more well known and you start leveling up, you start adding to that. You're not replacing it. So if you're the brave, you can also start adding other ones, like born of the bones of the earth, or relentless as the tide, or whose cry is thunder, right? Which, I mean, come on. You don't want to be step into an area and everybody like, oh, that's Nahoa the brave. That's Naho, whose cry is thunder. Or even getting further to your highest level ones. That's Nahoa, the last ruler. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome.
Fucking epic, man. Excuse me. But yeah.
So War of Immortals is the newest book that's come out, right?
Yes. Though that is only for 6 more days.
Oh, what's coming out now?
Divine Mysteries.
Ooh.
So
that's the one I've been looking forward to.
yeah, so to fill everyone in who doesn't know this, Pathfinder is sort of going through a meta event, which much like in the world of comic books, how they'll have like event comics where some big event happens in the world and you'll have the mainline comic that follows that event, and then you'll have the various characters lines that follows their story, but that event will also be going on in the background. That's happening in Pathfinder, and this current event is called the War of Immortals, which is kicked off by an event called the God's Reign.
Yeah,
And
it's as bad as it sounds.
yeah, so more or less, the God of War in their setting, the Lost
Spoilers.
Omens, sort of. It's not that much spoilers because it's what's happening currently in the world. It's sort of current events for people in the world of Galarian, the world that most everything takes place on. But in any case, the god of war, Gorum, has died.
Has
And
been murdered.
yes, by the god of assassins. And his blood, the bits of his shattered armor, and his silvery divine essence have rained down on the world. And it starts causing things to happen. Some people sort of get covered in this rain of blood or the divine essences. Some people find and claim the bits of shattered armor. And so they start to gain little motes of divine power, maybe war and Gorm based, maybe not, maybe just something different. And this also starts causing other motion in the world as other events start happening, as just the simple act of a deity dying has plunged the world into utter chaos. And starting off the War of Immortals as this death of a god has sent shockwaves throughout not just the world of Galarian in the universe, otherwise in other systems, similarly would be known as the material plane, but also shocks through the various deities and demigods and whatnot.
Mm.
And
yeah, my poor Syrian.
Yeah, and then Divine Mysteries follows it up to sort of explain things. It sort of further fleshes out some things that have changed in the last 5 years, because this is the second book about deities and divines and the whatnot for Pathfinder 2nd edition. The first one coming out relatively shortly after the
release
system's release, Gods and Magic.
Mm-hmm.
And then this sort of updates a lot of that. Yes. And gives more options and whatnot to divine-based characters such as champions and clerics and whatnot. And then it also introduces and fleshes out a lot of other divine powers.
And any new deities there may be.
Yes, introduces some new deities, some that have been around but haven't really been talked about.
I wonder if she's going to be in there. Because she was in War of Immortals.
Speaking of Lysala.
Yes.
I mean, that's a possibility.
She wasn't in Gods and Magic.
She was not, because she was
she's a basically dead god.
Yeah.
She's not actually dead, like even in not even in our canon world. But in the canon Galarian, she's not actually dead like Eridan is.
Nope.
She's just dormant.
Yeah.
Because there's been other followers of her that, tried to bring back another Rune Lord.
Mm-hmm. They just haven't really gotten any answers.
Yeah.
She's been quiet. Though, this return to activity has been hinted at as, I don't remember the exact source of it, but her herald has been around and been very frustrated, as even her herald
can't get a hold of her.
Yes.
Yes, I remember that.
Hasn't lost powers, thus she's still around and hasn't lost her powers.
And in our canon is talking to my character.
Yes, this is true.
It's not talking to her herald, but it's talking to my character. Dear God, if her herald finds out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit, I just gave you ideas.
Mm.
Oh no, don't make notes. Please don't make notes.
Already making mental notes.
Oh God. So we have a canon setting that all of our adventure paths, the first time we go through them successfully, take place in. And it's been changed because of our characters from the, written official canon, because our characters exist in the world and have done things. And so we've finished 4 campaigns or 4 adventure paths. And the heroes of all of these adventure paths know each other and have basically formed like a Justice League.
Yeah. Like a Justice League or the Avengers or something of the sort.
Yeah. Of Galarian.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly Varizia, but
And more specifically, almost exclusively the Inner Sea region.
yes.
Which
Yes.
these are all varying levels of specificity to
Geography.
yeah.
But and like one character was directly related to another character, like not familially related, but the campaigns were related, and
Mm.
like she was created because of the first campaign.
Yes. Speaking of
Elswin and
Elswin and all
then
our characters from the Rune Lord saga.
yes. But yeah, we've been playing for over 10 years now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dear God, we've been playing for over 10 years now.
Yeah. And honestly, we sort of got started pretty late.
Yeah, we
We
did.
didn't exactly get started in high school. We weren't cool enough for the uncool people's club.
No, I actually got made fun of by the Uncool People's Club.
Yeah. But yeah, so
Like legit Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh players were making fun of me.
Rough.
Yeah. Hey guys, I had a shit upbringing in a way.
Play Asaka. That's rough, buddy.
Yeah, just pat me on the head.
But yeah.
Well, we've almost filled an hour and we hadn't even really talked about War of Immortals.
Yeah. So yeah, to go into it, I was speaking a little bit about the Exemplar. It is one of 2 new classes in there. The Exemplar is a martial class. You were going to say something?
I was just trying to remember the other classes. The Animist?
Animist. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yes, the Animist.
Okay,
which
I
is,
was just trying to make sure that I remembered it correctly.
Which is the caster from the book. But the
oh god, the Animist.
I sort of gave the flavor of the Exemplar. The Animist is a very interesting casting class, as it sort of has a mixture of casting abilities. In Pathfinder, there's in general 2 types of caster. You've got your prepared casters, which have to prepare their spells ahead of time using old school Vancian magic, which a lot of 5th edition players come in and they're unprepared and they do not like it. Whereas in 5th edition, when you prepare your spells, and this is most all of the casting classes, not all, there's a couple of exceptions, you have to prepare your spells at the beginning, and in preparing, you're more or less selecting your spell list for the day. So you're a wizard, you choose magic missile and like a shield or something.
Bixby's hand.
Yeah, Bixby's hand. And that's your spell list for the day. Say you cast magic missile, you can also still like your prepared spells and your spell slots are sort of different. Whereas in Pathfinder, they still do it sort of in the old way, where if you're a wizard and you've got 3 first level slots and you want to be able to cast um,
Magic missile or force
or as
barrage.
it's, yeah, as it's called, force barrage, what I was going to say, more than once, you need to prepare it more than once. You
Mm-hmm.
sort of have to pre-declare what all the spells you're going to cast in the day are and
Yeah.
how many times. Which does catch people off guard who are coming from 5th edition. Um, but it adds sort of another tactical layer. And then your other one is what was previously called spontaneous casting, where instead of preparing your spells every day, you have a repertoire where as you level up, you learn spells, but you don't,
Get to change them.
yeah, you know fewer. Um, Prepared casters, either if it's a wizard, they'll have a spell book that they can constantly be adding spells to, or if it's something like a cleric or a druid, they just have access to all the common spells.
Yeah.
And you can pick and choose as you're preparing. But with a caster with a repertoire, you've got your spell slots and you can cast any spell in your repertoire with those ranks of spell slot, but your repertoire is more or less set and changes very slowly.
Yeah, like you can change it when you level up. But that's it.
More or less. You can also retrain spells.
Oh yeah, technically.
But that being said, the animist is sort of a bit of both. Scrolling.
Because I know that they can spontaneous cast certain spells and then they choose a spirit or something and they get certain spells from that or something.
Yeah, so more or less, you've got 2 different pools of spells. The animist's whole thing is that they channel apparitions. They bring forth spirits. Um, and you've got your animus spells, and the apparitions have their spells.
Mm-hmm.
And your spells are prepared. They're prepared divine spells.
So you can learn any of them.
Yeah, you can prepare anything on the divine list given rarity and what you've got access to there.
Yeah.
Your apparitions, however, are spontaneous.
They have
And
set spells and you can use points to cast them.
yeah, they've got their spell slots, and each sort of apparition has its own repertoire.
Yeah.
So you can even change what that spell pool is from day to day, or even actually in pulling forth an apparition and manifesting them, even more common than that. And you can actually have more than one at a time, and you've got one as your main apparition for the day, and that main one selects sort of sets your apparition spell casting.
Interesting.
Yeah. Uh, which makes the animist extraordinarily like diverse caster,
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
which actually
Because that can make it where you can cast from any tradition.
they are, if I remember correctly, I believe they are all still divine. Yeah, they're still divine, but they've got various different like abilities, and a lot of their spells on their list on their in their repertoires are not on the divine list, even though they do still count as divine spells.
They count as divine spells because they're coming from the apparitions, but they're a special spell list that has spells on it that are not actually available to other divine casters.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, for a good look at how they function, I actually suggest watching The Rules Lawyer on YouTube. His dive into the Animus and the Exemplar, just to show how both of these classes that were published in War of Immortals, just how diverse they are. They've got
Yeah.
so many various things they can do, which in Pathfinder is sort of the name of the game. You do get more powerful, obviously, quite a bit so over your climb, but sort of the biggest thing that you get to do is you just get to do more things.
Yeah.
There's more things you can do. And
Like you can think of it, there's probably a way to create it.
maybe something of the sort. But
I mean, I've seen some pretty or heard of some pretty freaking gnarly builds.
yeah, of course Reddit, but there's all sorts
Yes.
of interesting builds on the Pathfinder 2e subreddit. Uh
Yeah.
and to the point where I think they're still doing it, but they had a thing on there where they would do a full build Friday, where they would fully build out a whole character build.
Character. Oh, cool. That is awesome.
And yeah,
That's well, I, on the other hand, am known on Reddit very slightly, very, very slightly, for making maps. I make maps for the game. And not hand make. We don't play in person. We play digitally. Um so I make digital maps. They're amazing. I love them so much. I'm not terrible at it. I have had somebody buy a map that I've made.
yeah, congrats on that.
Only one person, but I have had somebody pay me to do it.
I mean, as of right now,
I'm not even advertising it anymore.
yeah. I mean, technically, that is
I'm
another
just
thing you could do.
throwing them up for free on the dungeon on the
Uh-huh.
map making page on or the subreddit on Reddit
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
and the applicable adventure path Reddits.
Nice.
Though actually, I think only Strength of Thousands has a dedicated Reddit. Which think about that for that should have been a clue to me
Hmm.
that's a very involved AP, that it's the only AP that has a dedicated subreddit to it.
I suppose it also does have a very devout following. And yeah, just to explain Strength of Thousands, it is an adventure path, as we shorten it to AP, that more or less your scholars at a magical university known as the
The oldest
Magambia.
magical university in Galarian to date that they know about.
Yeah, and it's
It's
set,
called Mangambia. Sorry,
yeah,
I cut you off.
the Magambia, and it's based in the continent that's sort of analogous to fantasy Africa,
Mm-hmm.
which on uh, a
Go around.
further viewing could sort of raise some hackles, because a lot of tabletop writers aren't always the most sensitive whenever it comes to cultures.
Yeah.
There's too many things to list, even just from D&D by itself. Sometimes you look back at some of that things and you just have to go, Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't age
Rise of the
well, and
Rune Lords.
there are a couple things in Rise.
Yeah, there's a couple things in Rise. I mean, the systematic. What does he say again? The systemic racism or something.
Yeah, sort of. And yeah, that's mostly just monster people or monster people, which they've changed a lot.
Yeah, yeah, they have. Goblins have their own country now.
Hobgoblins.
Well, hobgoblins, but they include goblins and bugbears too.
Yes, because they're goblinoids. But make no mistake, that country is gray, not green.
You and your hobgoblins.
Am I
love you,
saying that
Malcolm.
I'm a Opraki nationalist? No, I'm not saying that though.
Yeah, but I thought Malcolm hated Operac.
He likes the idea of it. He just has very complicated feelings about it, considering that one of the mad fringe scientists that is trying to advance the country's ends is his mother.
Yes, and did things
Yes, is like an awful
acid to
Dr.
the face.
Frankenstein. Well, you have to keep the whelps in line somehow. Silence.
That's because the face that you cannot see.
Uh-huh.
Rain still wants to go like fucking murder his mom. And she's the good girl.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I think she's the closest to a pacifist you've ever played.
Yeah.
She's not, but she's the closest to it.
Yeah, no, she'll still fucking murk you. And then you get Elliswin, who's ready to go march into Nadal to kill a vampire lord.
Dumbest idea ever.
What was that?
That's the dumbest idea ever.
Probably, but she's gotta. Well, to be fair, she would pit her goddess against another god, so that wouldn't be good. So,
yeah.
Sorry, this is rambling about things that you guys don't know. We will explain these things to you later. So stick around.
Inside stories.
Inside stories. Stick around. You'll get them eventually. I promise you. I promise you. We will get to them. But with those inside stories, it does kind of bring us to the end of our session.
Indeed. For today.
For today, yes, we will be back. We will be back. I can't do the voice. I can't.
I'll be back.
Yeah, that one. He's the one that does the voices for our games, guys.
I do the voices. You do.
But we'll be back, and hopefully you enjoyed this rambling ball of chaos that is our conversations.
Yeah, maybe we'll be a bit more focused next time.
One person that's on ADHD medicine that doesn't work very well, and one person that has ADHD that's unmedicated. Really? Anyways, with that, guys, we're gonna end this episode. Hope to hear you. Leave us comments.
Yes,
like
comments.
our shit, share it. leave us comments. Tell us topics you want us to talk about, and we may talk about them. We will have our social media in the description, and yeah, hope you enjoy this. So we will talk to you next time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.